Hello, good humans. I would like to tell you a story about the future, a story about a possible society. Difficult to realize with our current thinking, yet incredibly necessary. We are told by a large number of climate scientists that we have to change our way of life fundamentally, change fast, or give up chances to have a flourishing life for all humans, not just a few. Change fast or risk losing an unimaginable number of species, habitats, and chances to feed all humans. Change fast or risk even more misery and possible extinction. Let us try an exercise in imagination. We have less than 10 years to make these changes. 10 years to dismantle our destructive economic system, namely capitalism, and replace it with a model where humans are at its core. 10 years at best to replace the profit motive with the prosperity motive. How to do this when a large number of corporations are owned by hedge funds, venture capitalists that have nothing to do with the work actually done inside those corporations? Fundamentally, the workers create the value in any corporation, not the shareholders. This is a standard report filed by Tesla with the SEC, which is mandatory for all publicly traded companies. It shows Elon Musk owning 23.1%, or this number of shares, the Vanguard Group owning 5.9%, or this many shares, BLACKROCK 5.1%, and so on. This is a report filed by BLACKROCK. Vanguard owns 7.9% of BLACKROCK, the same Vanguard. Kuwait Investment Authority owns 5.1%, and so on. What about Vanguard? Their report shows the following. No other person's interest in the securities reported herein is more than 5%. Who are then the people owning Vanguard? If we continue this game, it will take us a long time to unravel the multi-layered onion of shares ownership. What is certain, however, is that it is not an infinite onion, and the bigger it is, the more detached it is from reality, from the value created by workers inside companies who actually produce goods and services. To dismantle the onion, the first step is to detach ownership of shares from the power that flows from them. The fact that one person with 244 million shares has 244 million votes in a company is an artificial construction that traces back to the beginnings of capitalism, where shares were a representation of a lord's wealth. Instead of considering the person as the investor, the capitalist system decided it was this representation of the person that mattered, not the actual person, as if the human became the spokesperson for his wealth and spoke in the name of the coins who had no mouth to speak themselves. This is absurd. Money or deeds of property cannot have a mouth because they are not sentient beings. Only humans can have and should have mouths. Sentience cannot be bequeathed to non-sentient objects like money or property. Moreover, property has emerged as a cultural and social construct between humans. It is not embedded into any tangible or intangible object. This means power should derive from sentience of individual humans, not the size of their individual ownership of whatever. Power ought not to exceed the extent of sentience, which is equal to one mind inside one person. The size of the property should not be linked to the size of the power the person has in society. Power is manifested by sentience, and property is manifested by things. Things in themselves have no power without a human that creates this attribute for them. For this reason, we need to separate the person from their property. Ownership of shares has this perverse mix with power. Owning shares is perverse because it gives you power over other people, the workers. In contrast, owning a car or a smartphone or a house does not automatically give you hierarchical, undemocratic, non-consensual power over other people's careers and well-being. Shares must be stripped of this connection to power over other humans. In practice, This means 244 million shares cannot buy 244 million votes. The owner of these shares, Elon Musk, should be entitled to one vote because he's one person and one sentience, allegedly. Which brings us to the principle, one worker, one vote. The power to decide what to produce, how to produce, who gets to be a manager, for how long, should rest with those who create the value, the workers. Shareholders can retain the ownership of shares, but they cannot have power to determine the decisions inside the company unless they work there. And then, like any other worker, one person will have one vote. This is not a radical idea. It is called co-determination in Germany and other countries. It needs only to be taken further, and workers need to have 100% control. So what will happen to Elon Musk and all those 244 million shares? We will redistribute some of them in two ways. See also my videos about inequality. Method 1 is a straight wealth tax of, let's say, 10%, which Elon must pay in cash every year. He will probably have to sell some shares to do that. Method 2 is called shares repurposing. 10% of his shares will be withdrawn by Tesla from circulation and will be transferred to a worker ownership foundation. I call it a foundation because it is not real money, but actual ownership into the company. This is not a tax. Shares do not go to the government. They will go to the workers on the principle one worker, one vote. What method to choose is up to Elon. Cash or repurposing. In the end, both methods can serve the same public good, which is to establish economic democracy. This redistribution will only happen at the level of individuals. The onion I mentioned always has people at its core. We have to go where the people are, not the various ways in which they cloak their wealth in hedge funds or private equity firms. When we find the people, the onion will begin to crumble as a consequence. So then you may ask, what incentive would have a venture capitalist to put money into a company if they cannot tell the executives what to do? There's no escape. They will have to come to terms that power and ownership must be separated. When they realize this, they can still invest in valuable companies, receive a share of profit if the workers vote in this way. Or the capitalist can choose to sit on his cash and pay 10% of it in wealth tax every year and run out of it in about 10 years. Their choice. In the long run, this transformation of corporations will have tremendous effects for the economy. When workers get together and decide democratically the scope of their business, the entire society will benefit. This is not a silver bullet, however. Other transformations to corporate law will need to be implemented to start the transition from capitalism to a new, radically different, and suitable economic system where prosperity and well-being will drive motivation, not profit. There are many questions that arise from this model. You can drop them in the comments below. Be happy, healthy, and prosper.